Yeah, so let's continue with our today's topic, that is the Java features. Yeah, so first of all, it is like pure object oriented programming language. Okay, so one of the feature of Java is it is pure object oriented programming language. Before that, one of the feature is it is simple. Now, when we say simple, is it really simple? Because many of the people will face a lot of problem actually when we say, okay, you need to learn Java, all those things. Then why the first feature is called here as simple? This is simple compared to C++ languages or any other language. See, in C++ language, the main headache is actually in terms of pointer programming, the memory management, like star, ampersand, all those things. So in Java, we don't have to worry about the memory management. Like, you don't have to remember which address what object is created, and then later on we have to free the memory, otherwise there will be a garbage value which will come. All these kind of problems we don't have in Java, because in Java, just create an object, use it, or at the later end automatically garbage collector will come and remove the objects. So we have an entity called as garbage collector, which will automatically remove the objects which are no more required. So that is one of the other feature which we have. But in case of C++, we don't have such feature. Okay, so there you have to create object, you have to allocate the memory, and then you only have to remember to even free the memory. Otherwise, there will be some garbage values which will come, which will affect the application. So no pointer programming is required. Second thing why it is called simple is because in C++ and most of the languages or the traditional languages, every minor thing you have to write the logic for. Like you might be remembering, like in college days, if you want to create a stack, you need to write push method, pop method with the logic. If you want to create a queue, you have to create a node with front, rear, okay, and all that particular things you have to mention. Similarly, if you want to create a linked list, you have to create a node with data value, address value, and then you have to start linking with it. Means what, every minor thing you have to do in C++ from scratch. But in Java, not only for such requirements, even for advanced requirements, you have inbuilt classes available in packages. So like IO package for all file reading, writing related classes will be there. Collection framework for all this linked list, tag, queue, all those related classes are there. Okay, similarly, you have JDBC purpose, means database connectivity. You have SQL package, which is having all the classes internally to connect to database and perform insert, delete, update. Likewise, means for every purpose you have everything readily available in Java. So only the learning curve is to know how to use Java. After that, you have everything readily available. You can just import it and use it. Even it could be for testing purpose, okay, Selenium, automation testing, or anything else. For that all purpose, we will have inbuilt packages which we need to import and can create an object and use it. Fine. So that's why it is called simple. So, and that is the reason why it is being used in every sector, not only testing, not only development, even for administration, even for actually for mobile applications. It could be for any purpose. Everywhere it is used, because for whichever purpose you want to create application, if you want web application, we have J2W. So which is servlet JSP packages are there. We have to import it and create object of them and can use them. Okay, so likewise for every purpose. Similarly, for mobile application, Android development kit is there, which is again like Java packages, which we can import, we can create object, and we can call the functions which will perform the appropriate task. So likewise for every application, we have inbuilt packages, we can import and create object and use it. Then other biggest advantage of Java is, compared to C++, is Java is platform independent. This is very important thing. Okay, compared to other languages, Java is platform independent. What is the meaning of platform independent? Platform independent means, if assume we are writing a code in C or C++, and that code is right now working fine in Windows operating system. But if I take the same code and try to run on Linux or Macintosh, then the same code might not work. The reason why it is so is because in case of C++, the source code is directly converted into machine code. So let me take an example to illustrate it, to easily understand. So here I am opening a Paint. In C++, what happens is, see, let's take, this is the source code which you have written. This is the source code. Source code means nothing but the .c or .cpp program. I'll call it a source code. It is .c or .cpp program, C++ program, which we write. Now in C, what happens is this source code is directly converted into machine code. So remember, your machine will understand only machine code, machine language. Okay, so whatever code you are writing, this is to be converted into machine code, which is nothing but in terms of zeros and ones. So now assume if this machine is running on Windows operating system, and this particular machine understands 110011 this kind of coding. So now your source code means your C program or C++ program is converted into actually this machine code, so it is able to run here without any problem. So it is working fine, no problem. But tomorrow if you want to run on some other machine, okay, and this machine is running on Linux, and this understands is 10001 something like this, some okay other machine code, then obviously this source code is going to be generating this machine code. So if I have the same machine code generated here, it will not work, because this machine understands 10001 something like that. So I need to modify my source code here, okay, so that it will generate this machine code. Means I cannot run the same program as it is on different operating system. Similarly, tomorrow, if again assume I have modified my source code here to run on Linux operating system, but again if I want to run it on Apple Macintosh, okay, Apple Mac. So in that case, what happens is again this Apple Mac might understand some different code, 00011 something like this. Okay, this is Apple Macintosh. Now again I have to modify my source code so that it will generate this machine code. Means what? Every time I have to keep on modifying my source code so that it can be compatible to be run on different machines by generating that appropriate machine code. So this is the problem which I will face in the C or C++ program. Okay, hence they are called platform dependent logic or platform dependent programming language. But in Java, what happens is, in Java the source code means .java file. So here we will have .java file which we will be creating. So in Java the source code is never directly converted into machine code. It is first intermediately converted into one code called as bytecode. So it will be converted into something called as bytecode, and this bytecode is nothing but .class file. Okay, so there is a separate .class file which will be created, and this .class file is a neutral code. See, in case of C++, directly the source code is converted to machine code, but here there are two files which will be generated in our program, so which I'll show you practically. So first, it is like .java file. Okay, this is our source code. When you compile, it will get you .class file. Means what? Here there are two steps which will happen in Java. One is first is called as compilation. So the compiler will come into picture, and this compiler will compile this particular code from .java, and then we get, actually once the source code is compiled, we get a .class file. Once we get the .class file, now this .class file will be executed on multiple different machines. But before that, what is this .class or the bytecode? Bytecode is a neutral code. Neutral code means it doesn't depend on any operating system. So assume now again I have this separate machine, this is a separate machine, just like in the previous case. I have three different machines now here. Okay, so these are the three different machines. Again, this is running on Windows, this is running on actually Macintosh, and this is for example running on Linux. Again, the similar fashion here, this is like understanding 1000111 something, this is like 110011, and this is like 000111 something like this, the code. Now different machines, different machine language. Now when I am compiling, the .java is converted to .class, means the compiler will convert the source code and create one bytecode which is a neutral code. Now this neutral code, if I want to run on Linux machine, for Linux machine we will have different interpreter here. Okay, so we will have a different interpreter here, interpreter we call it. So there's another component called as interpreter which will convert this bytecode into appropriate machine code on which I'm running. Similarly, if I'm running on Windows, I will have different interpreter, okay, which will convert into Windows specific machine code. Similarly, if I'm running on Macintosh, there will be a separate interpreter. So likewise, we will have different interpreters which will convert into the appropriate machine code. But as a programmer, how many times do I am changing my code? So only once I have written my source code here, and it's a job of now the bytecode to machine code. Means it's a job of interpreter to convert into appropriate machine code. So as a programmer, I will just write my code and I will compile and check no syntactical errors are there or anything is there. So I will just compile it once. And once I compile, the bytecode is generated. Now it's a job of different interpreters in different platform to convert into appropriate machine code. Okay, so as a programmer, I am now platform independent. So this is the idea behind why Java is platform independent. Very important topic. So why Java is platform independent? Widely asked question in most of the companies or in interviews or by the client they are going to take in project. Fine. So here bytecode is converted into machine code. So first source code to bytecode, which is done by compiler, and then bytecode to machine code, which is done by actually interpreter. Fine. So there are two components here in Java, compiler and interpreter. Now let's take an example to understand this. As yesterday only we discussed, like human being is the best example to understand. Let's take an example of our Prime Minister itself. So like our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Now if he needs to travel to some different countries. So now anyway, due to the lockdown situation, no one is traveling anywhere, but we know like very frequently he used to travel to different countries. Fine. So here, now when we say if he is traveling to Japan or to Saudi Arabia or might be to France or Germany, Israel, anything. Fine. So now let's take if he's actually traveling from India to multiple different countries. Now these different countries we can think of like different machines here. And every machine will have its own language. Okay, machine language. Likewise, every country will have their own language. So Japan will have their own Japanese language, Saudi Arabia, they will have Arabic language, France might have French language. Now our Prime Minister might not be knowing any of these three languages, obviously, and he is traveling now to Japan. Okay, let's assume now when he is interacting with Japanese Prime Minister, let's assume Japanese Prime Minister doesn't know English. He knows only Japanese, so he is talking only in Japanese language. Now, in that case, similarly, if the Saudi king is only going to speak in Arabic language, similarly, the France president is only going to speak in French language, then will our Prime Minister will learn so many languages and go over there to talk to them? Obviously, no. So what he needs to know? He needs to know one standard language, okay, which should be without any grammatical mistake, means no syntactical errors like coding point of view. So it could be Hindi or it could be English. So any of these languages, but one standard language he should be knowing. Okay, now with that language, he will go and talk to Japanese Prime Minister. Now, our Prime Minister will speak in Hindi or English only, but there will be what? Translator. Now, translator is like an interpreter. Okay, the translator is the one who will convert actually that particular whatever our Prime Minister has spoken that into the Japanese language, and then Japanese Prime Minister whatever he is speaking that will be converted into vice versa. Okay, and this is how the communication takes place. Similarly, when our Prime Minister goes to actually the let's take Saudi Arabia, now again he'll speak in Hindi or English only, but there the translator will be available who will be converting into appropriate Arabic language. Similarly, when he goes to France, in France there will be a translator who will be converting into appropriate language. Now see, this is how in real time it works. This happens same way how it has been done here in technical manner. Now let's assume if our Prime Minister is traveling 15 different countries, will he carry 15 different translators along with him? No. Every country will have their own translators. Likewise, every machine will have their own interpreters. So we don't have common interpreter for all the three different machines. Every machine will have different interpreters. So compiler will just convert once into bytecode, and that bytecode will be appropriately converted into different machine codes. So very important topic in Java. So why Java is platform independent? What is bytecode? What is compiler? What is interpreter? Likewise, many of the things will be answered by this. So yes, we know why it is called simple, why it is called platform independent. Then there is third point also, it is portable. Okay, Java is portable. Now, what is difference between portability and platform independency? Now, many of the times when people say why Java is portable, they say because it's platform independent. And why it is platform independent? Because it's portable. But actually speaking, both are not same. Both are two different entities. Platform independent is from software point of view, like which operating system, multiple platforms my code can work. So that is platform independent, means I can run my same source code, same Java program on Windows also, Linux also, Macintosh also, or even Sun, Solaris or any other operating system, HP, UX, anything. So that is called as platform independent. Whereas portability means when I'm able to run the same code on multiple devices, might be operating system is same, but device is going to be different. The architecture is going to be different. The hardware is going to be different. Like example, the best example to take is Android operating system, okay, which is running on even the mobiles, The same Android app might be installed actually in case of smart watches. Nowadays we have got even Android TVs. Now, if I develop my application using Java, because see, this is another reason why Android applications prefer Java based applications to develop. Okay, so now if I have developed some code in Java, now I can run it on any device. Okay, this is not about any platform now. Now it can, platform is same in all the three devices, in TV also, in smartwatch also, in mobile also, even in tablet also. It is same Android OS. So platform is same, but devices are different. The architecture is different. The processor might be different. In case of laptop, we say Intel Pentium processor, whereas in mobile it could be Snapdragon processor. So it's not only about the processor, the whole architecture of the processor, how the motherboard works, okay, and everything, the whole architecture means the hardware level is going to change. But even then, okay, my code is going to work in the similar fashion on all the devices. That is nothing but called as portability. Okay, which will not change from machine to machine. In fact, not only multiple different devices, even the same device like laptop also. Now, some people can say, okay, how C is not portable? Let's take in C, what is the size of int in C? Just to tell you, in C, C++, the size of int depends on the type of processor. If it is 16-bit processor, it will be 2 byte. But if it is actually 32-bit processor, it will be actually 4 bytes. Like this, it will vary. Now, assume if there are two systems, both are having like same Windows operating system, but both are running on different types of processor. One is 16-bit processor, one is 32-bit processor. Now, if your program is having thousands of integer variable, obviously it is going to vary in both the system now, because in one system it will take 2 bytes per integer variable. So if I have thousands of variable, that many multiple times of memory I have to allocate. And same thing in 32-bit processor, it will be taking double the size. So if I don't want double the size, because it might be used by arrays and many other calculations. So if I don't want the size should vary, it should be same 2 bytes, then I have to modify my code in other system to short int. Okay, to make it back to 2 bytes from 4 bytes. Okay, like that I have to do some changes. Mean to say what is, like whatever code we write in C, C++, even though if it is same operating system, still because of the architecture changes, I need to modify my code in C, C++. But in Java, it is always standardized. Means int is always 4 bytes in Java. Let it be 16-bit processor, 32-bit processor, or 64-bit processor. It is not going to change at all. So likewise in Java, everything is standardized, due to which whatever architecture changes, Java is always portable. It can run on any device. Then next feature, pure object-oriented programming, we call Java as. What is the meaning of pure object-oriented programming? C, C++ are only, sorry, not C, but yes, C++. C++ is only object-oriented programming. Okay, not pure. But Java is pure object-oriented programming. One more point to add up. Okay, some places you might have seen Java is not pure object-oriented. Actually speaking, Java is pure object-oriented, but not 100% pure object-oriented. So we have these three separate categories. One is just object-oriented programming, one more is pure object-oriented programming, one more is 100% pure object-oriented programming language. So C++ is only object-oriented, not pure. But Java is pure, but not 100% pure. So Java comes under second category. Java is not 100% pure. Now, based on what all these are categorized is, there are some set of elements actually to be satisfied. If out of that minimum is satisfied, minimum property is satisfied, then we call it as object-oriented programming. Okay, there is minimum property satisfied, it is object-oriented. But if it is satisfying more than minimum, but not all, then it comes under second category. And if it satisfies all the properties of OOPS, then it comes under 100% pure object-oriented programming category. Okay, something like in college days or school days, we know like minimum passing percentage 35%. If minimum 35%, then passed. That's like this. So minimum OOPS properties if satisfied, it is called object-oriented. Then we have another category called as 60% above, called as first class. So then that is something like this. Yes, it is not just pass class, but he has scored more than 60. So it is like pure object-oriented programming. But yes, some people might have 100% scored. So that will be like different category. Like that, we have three categories. There are like, yes, Java supports more than basic properties, means many properties, but Java doesn't support each and every property of OOPS. That's why it is not 100% pure object-oriented programming. Hence, these are like the categories. So Java comes under pure object-oriented programming. Okay, now as we are not going right now in depth about the OOPS properties, so means a simple difference between why C++ is only object oriented but Java is pure object oriented. Now see, in C++, you can write some variable, like assume you have a class ABC. Now you can declare some variable outside the class also in C++. Okay, you can declare like int x equal to 10, like this outside the class. Means now you have something which doesn't belong to class. And if it doesn't belong to class, and when you create an object of this class, then obviously it doesn't belong to object of that class. Okay, so hence C++ is not completely object oriented. There are many things which can be done without a class. In fact, if I want to print something, I can just type main function in C and then type printf hello. Okay, so this is allowed in C++. Fine. So I can write even a code in C++ without creating a class. Fine. But Java is pure object oriented because in Java you cannot declare anything like this outside a class. Even the main function in Java is written inside a class. You cannot write anything without a class in Java. Hence, one of the point we can say as of now, without covering complete OOPS properties, yes, why Java is called pure object oriented, because everything in Java is written inside a class. And one more property, it is open source. So garbage collector already we have discussed. Garbage collector means, yes, this is another concept. In C++, object is not removed automatically, but in Java, we don't have to remember about object creation, which address, okay, how many object created, when to remove, nothing to remember. Once your program is over or there's no reference to that object, automatically it will be removed by the garbage collector. Okay, so there's another program which will be keep on running in the background, which will be keep on removing the objects from the memory, which are no more required. Then comes is open source. Okay, Java is open source, means freely available. No licensing is required. Okay, so even if you want, if you know Java programming well, you can create your own application by downloading all the softwares required, JDK, JRE, runtime environment, and can develop the application and can even sell it across. Okay, because no licensing is required for developing the application. Whereas if you want to do the same thing in .NET or some other thing, then yes, we need to actually buy the license. So yeah, so it is open source, freely available. Then other properties, it is secured. So it supports encryption, decryption, related APIs. It automatically does the locking thing internally. It supports even multi-threading. Okay, multi-threading is a concept where we can execute more than one thing simultaneously, not one by one. Even like in case of here in C program, once you call main function, now the control is in main function. Once you call a function, the control will jump to a function. Now the control is in a function. But when you say condition satisfied execute C, it will jump to C function. Means at the time when C function is under execution, no other function is executing. So control is only, there is single control which is just going one by one across multiple methods. Okay, so at any point of time only one function is under execution. But in case of multi-threading, what we can do is we can make sure like all the three A, B, C, all the three functions will be executing simultaneously. So wherever we have such requirement where more than one task to be run simultaneously, we can go for multi-threading. So which itself is a separate big topic we will be discussing. Plus we have exception handling. So Java supports exception handling. So this is also a separate big topic. So assume in C program, if at runtime something went wrong, okay, means compile time everything syntactically is correct, but runtime some logically error occurred, then what will happen in C is program will terminate at runtime, nothing we can do. But in Java we can specify if something goes at runtime wrong, then handle it and continue further without terminating the program. So such kind of things we can do, which is called as exception handling, and due to which it is robust also, because at runtime we can handle every kind of thing, okay, so that it won't crash. So hence it is robust. At runtime it can recover from any kind of problems. So hence it is called robust. And it is dynamic in nature. Dynamic means we can specify many things at runtime. Okay, there are many things which we can specify at runtime. Okay, just to name, there is a concept of runtime polymorphism. Okay, so that dynamically you can bind any object to the reference variable, which we'll see how to do it. Similarly, we can have any kind of logic which could be executed based on that reference. So there's a concept called as overriding, so using which we can achieve it. Similarly, we have something called a Java Reflection API programming. So using which, without writing the class name, at runtime you can decide like which class object to be created without writing anywhere in the program class name. Such kind of advanced things are possible. Okay, means everything can be made dynamically possible. Means at runtime only you can decide for everything rather than coding it at compile time. So that is the another feature, dynamic, and it is compiled and interpreted. Now, some of the differences. Another widely asked question in interview, like what is the difference between compiler and interpreter? One of the difference between compiler and interpreter, which already we discussed, compiler is to convert from source code to bytecode, and interpreter to convert from bytecode to machine code. This is first difference. Second difference, compiler is required only once, okay, because it is only to check the syntactic errors, only compile source code to bytecode. But interpreter means only one common compiler is enough actually to compile the program. But interpreter I cannot have common. For every machine I need to have different interpreters. So for every platform I will have different interpreters. Third difference, that is compiler compiles in a block. Block means at a time it will compile everything. Even if you have thousands lines of code, it will compile whole 1,000 lines in a single instant. Whereas interpreter interprets line by line. It does line by line conversion. So compiler converts at a time the complete source code to bytecode, but interpreter converts one line of bytecode to machine code. Due to which, fourth difference, compiler is faster, interpreter is slower. So these are the differences between compiler and interpreter. Then next is, due to all these things, it delivers high performance because of all these points, whatever listed over here. Yeah, so these all are the features of Java. Now see, sometimes I have seen like many of the times, like if in interview person, the first question will be like, okay, introduce yourself. After introducing, like while introducing, if they say I'm aware of Java, I know Java, or I have learned Java, mostly it happens actually in freshers. Fresher interview, like whenever the interview is asking, okay, introduce yourself, fresher actually introduces himself and says like, I have done so and so course in so and so institute on Java or testing or Python, anything. So when they say so, they will ask, why did you learn Java? Why did you learn Python? Why did you learn actually testing? Something like that. And people will start answering actually different things. Like example, why did you learn Java? They will say like, because Java is very widely used language. There are many openings on Java. Actually, they are not looking for all these things. The question like, why did you learn Java means simple. You have to list out the features of Java. Okay, like Java is platform independent, Java is portable, Java is actually widely used in, okay, developing any kind of application requirement. Yes, there is another advantage of Java. Java can be used for any application development. What is the meaning of any application development? It means it can be used for desktop based applications, it can be used for web based applications, and it can be used for even mobile based applications. So it can be used for any of these categories, and these are the only three types of applications which we have actually in the industry. Fine, one is desktop based application, one more is web based applications, which we call intranet based applications, or mobile based applications, which can be accessed to mobiles or even from the tablets or from Android TVs or iOS based, okay, means any of the mobile based operating systems. Fine. Now the question comes is, if I want to develop desktop based application, then what is available in Java? So Java comes in actually three different editions. Now the three different editions of Java. So Java editions. These editions are, first is Java SE, and this is generally for desktop based or standalone based applications. Here we create standalone based applications or desktop based applications. Then comes is Java EE, called as Java Enterprise Edition. This is for creating web based applications, or also called as intranet based applications, or also called as for browser based applications. And then comes is Java ME, which is actually for mobile based applications, or we can say for chip level programming or embedded application. It's not only for mobile apps, it could be for embedded applications also. When we say embedded applications, it could be for any chip level programming, etc. So first of all, SE stands for Standard Edition. Standard Edition. This is one edition. Then Java EE stands for Enterprise Edition. And then the third one, ME, stands for, it's not Mobile Edition, not even Millennium Edition. It is actually Micro Edition. So Java SE Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition, and Micro Edition. Micro means very small. Small means chip level programming. That's why I have written here embedded applications. It could be for mobiles, PDAs, farm tops, anything. Okay, even like sensors, all those things can be implemented through this. Right. So these are the three editions in which Java comes. So other two editions, to understand, first one should know Java SE. So without Java SE, we cannot go further for any of these advanced Java related things. Yeah. So hence Java can be used even to develop any kind of applications in the industry. So yes, whenever anyone asks you what is the advantages of Java, or why did you learn Java, or why are you learning Java, or why it is widely used in the industry, for all this is the answer. Java features. It is simple, it's platform independent, it's portable, pure object oriented. So it's an open source, freely available. It supports multi-threading, exception handling. It is robust, dynamic. It delivers high performance. It can be used to develop any kind of application, etc. Fine. So these are nothing but this is like theoretically introducing why we are going for Java.